Recently, Malaysia has experienced a continuous weakening of their ringgit, heading towards the biggest monthly loss in more than 5 years. The Malaysian ringgit is showing a huge decrement against the Brunei dollar, and many people are wondering about it as Malaysia is a nation with a higher number of resources and a larger land area than neighbouring Brunei. But many reasons have made the Brunei dollar stronger than the Malaysian ringgit. So, let's explore these reasons in detail. Before we proceed, hit the subscribe button and smash the bell icon for more exciting updates. Malaysia is a middle-income country that has transformed from a producer of raw materials into an emerging multi-sector economy. The Southeast Asian nation is rich in mineral resources, and mining accounts for a significant portion of the GDP. In addition to crude oil and natural gas, ores like tin, bauxite, copper, iron, manganese, antimony, mercury, and gold are found in Malaysian soil. Its rainfall and morphology are suitable for hydropower generation, so they are self-sufficient in energy production with fossil fuels and hydropower. Even though Malaysia was famous as a raw material supplier in the past, later it emerged as a leading manufacturer in the region, adding more diversity to its economy. They make use of the vast land area and favorable climatic conditions of the country to develop the agriculture sector as well, becoming one of the main exporters of palm oil, rubber, cocoa, and wood products. With the effect of all these factors, it ranked as the 34th nation in the global GDP list, with a GDP of around $439.373 billion. Brunei is an energy source-rich state in Southeast Asia, with one of the highest per capita GDPs in the world. Their main economic source is crude oil, which accounts for approximately 65% of GDP and 95% of exports. Brunei citizens don't pay any income taxes, and the government provides free health services and education to its citizens. Recently, the Brunei government took several actions to diversify their economy, as they want to reduce their economic reliance on fossil fuels. Both Brunei and Malaysia are heavily dependent on their hydrocarbon resources, as they act as a key component of their national income. But totally depending on fossil fuels can cause sudden economic shocks with global geopolitical issues, and most of the oil-supplying nations, especially the Middle East countries, are now attempting to reduce their reliance on hydrocarbon revenues. Brunei appears to have the same policy, diversifying its economy in different sectors like tourism, finance, high-tech manufacturing, and logistics, etc. That added a huge boost to their economy recently, as the sources of income widen in different ways. Malaysian ringgit used to be a stronger currency in the past compared to the other currencies in the region, and it has fallen to a very low level over time. Now it is difficult to recover its comparative foreign exchange value as it has moved far below the recoverable level. The Malaysian currency has reached its weakest level since January 1998 during the Asian financial crisis. According to the explanation made by the Ministry of Finance in Malaysia, ringgit has fallen to a very low level due to the current currency exchange market conditions from time to time. But it is not a satisfactory explanation from the government. The ringgit is not the sole decliner, as several other major currencies depreciated against the greenback. But the point that should be considered here is, ringgit appeared as the hardest-hit currency in the Southeast Asian region, showing a depreciation of 4.74% since the start of the year. Its depreciation against the Brunei dollar is so steep, showing a fall of 2.76%. According to economists, ringgit's weakness is tied to the depreciation of the Chinese renminbi, or RMB, against the US dollar, which is caused by capital outflows and negative yield differentials with the US, as China's economic outlook turns bad during the pandemic. So, economists describe the strong linkages of the Malaysian economy with China as one of the major reasons for the ringgit's weakness after the pandemic. According to HSBC Global Research, the weakness of the ringgit could also have been accelerated partly with the actions of foreign bond investors, as they sold Malaysian government securities amid the global bond rout. In addition to that, negative domestic developments like the government-approved withdrawal scheme of Employment Provident Fund to increase consumption also had a bad effect on the depreciation of the ringgit. The above-mentioned research from HSBC reported as follows. Residents' views on the ringgit were probably negatively affected by broad US dollar strength as well as the RMB's depreciation. There are a lot of Chinese corporations using Malaysia as a manufacturing hub. Outflows and foreign currency deposit hoarding explain why the ringgit has not really benefited from a robust trade balance and very strong foreign direct investment inflows, the strongest in ASEAN recently, overtaking Vietnam. With the intention of facilitating the economic and trade relations among three neighboring nations, Brunei, Malaysia, and Singapore developed a system for the free interchangeability of their respective currencies in 1967. Malaysia terminated the agreement within a short period of time in 1973 and came out of the interchangeability system. The economies of Malaysia and Singapore became vastly different due to their political and economic policies. Malaysia had enough resources and land area for the cultivation of crops to push itself towards an export-based economy. But Singapore's economy was rapidly industrialized, promoting an offshore market and soliciting foreign direct investments. Malaysian development policies were based more on ethnic and racial identity compared to Singapore. This difference resulted in the end of the currency interchangeability agreement on the Malaysian side. But Brunei and Singapore are still continuing this agreement, allowing the exchange of currencies at par and without charge. Brunei's currency board has determined that their currency value will be set and based on the Singapore dollar. Simply put, the value of one Brunei dollar is always maintained equal to the value of one Singapore dollar as a part of the above-mentioned interchangeability agreement. On the other hand, the Singapore government is currently using a monetary system to stabilize their dollar exchange rate. As a result, the Brunei dollar appreciates in tandem with the Singapore dollar. So, the inflation rate of the Singapore dollar has increased considerably, and they are increasing the face value of their dollar to counter the inflation. The Brunei dollar is rising in the same manner, making a significant difference in terms of foreign exchange values with the ringgit. Brunei maintains a high face value as a result of the Singapore dollar's increase, ranking as the world's 13th strongest currency. Even the Singapore dollar is ranked one place below the Brunei dollar in the list. Malaysia are currently using a method of currency value increment based on monetary policy to maintain the stability of the ringgit, in line with the trend of economic development. Malaysia has a policy of non-internationalization of the ringgit, then the ringgit is not open to be traded outside of Malaysia. This is to ensure that the ringgit's value is not subjected to speculative activities outside of Malaysia. So, the trading of ringgit is to be carried out only with the licensed bank in Malaysia. But in order to encourage the trading of foreign currencies to enhance the competitiveness in the economy, the Malaysian government is maintaining a liberal currency exchange policy. This is followed by another attempt to promote the overall business by using the local currency. The Malaysian and Brunei governments' respective currency stabilization policies resulted in the ringgit falling behind the Brunei dollar. Predictions made at the beginning of 2022 predicted that the ringgit would correct itself in the second half of the year. Now it is the second half of the year, and it is still falling without showing any signs of stability. So, the ringgit is likely to remain undervalued as the condition is further aggravated by the political instability, in addition to the main cause, which is the strengthening of the US dollar. Ringgit will continue its fall in the near future until the US dollar starts to decline. Lee Heng-gui, executive director at the Socio-Economic Research Center, however, said that its drop in value would be temporary. He also stated that the ringgit would bounce back once the performance of the US dollar begins to decline, when the Federal Reserve slows the rate of its interest rate hikes. Until then, he said, the ringgit would likely continue to be under pressure as buying interest in the greenback remains strong. Even though the ringgit shows a depreciation against the US dollar and the neighboring Brunei dollar, its overall performance compared to its main trading partners, like Japan, the UK, the EU, New Zealand, and South Korea, is somewhat different. So, the ringgit has strengthened against the currencies of those countries, despite their depreciation against other currencies. Currency acts as a status symbol for a country. It is seen as strong if it is becoming more valuable relative to another country's currency. Conversely, a currency is considered weak if it is becoming less valuable versus another country's currency, says Malaysian AmBank Group Chief Economist Anthony Das during an interview regarding the currency policy of the Malaysian government. Giving an answer to the question of whether Malaysia advocates a strong ringgit policy, Anthony Das said, "It is rather complicated, so the answer isn't exactly black and white. However, three crucial factors influence a currency's strength: interest rates, economic policies, and stability of the government." But Bank Negara's tight stance regarding the ringgit hasn't changed yet according to their latest statements. Bank Negara's stance is not to target or advocate for any specific levels of the ringgit. Fluctuations in the ringgit should be expected from time to time in response to changes in the economic and financial environment, both globally and domestically. Rather, our policy aims to ensure orderly market conditions for the ringgit, which will enable the ringgit to adjust to the flow of ringgit demand and supply in the market. The flexibility of the ringgit is important to help the real economy adapt and withstand external shocks, the central bank says. So, they are focusing more on implementing structural reforms to strengthen the country's growth potential and economic prospects than on a specific ringgit policy. This would make Malaysia a more attractive investment destination. As a consequence, the larger foreign direct investment and portfolio inflows and higher output generated will naturally support the ringgit. We must therefore focus on building a stronger, more sustainable economy with improvements in living standards and Bank Negara. Now a debate is growing on whether the ringgit should be pegged to a foreign currency to improve the currency as it weakens day by day. Brunei has pegged its dollar against the Singapore dollar and Hong Kong has pegged its dollar against the US dollar. Both countries have achieved much success with that, and Malaysia can also follow such a policy if the ringgit weakens further. But it wouldn't be an easy task for a country like Malaysia, with developing policies that were based on ethnic and racial identity. At least they should open their currency to sale in the foreign exchange market to achieve the benefits of it, moving away from the policy of non-internationalization of the ringgit. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel to not miss anything related to the world economy. See you guys in the next video with a hot trending topic. Goodbye.